Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Rob, the proprietor of the Lair of OmnusI YouTube channel, and very happy to see you here today for another RPGaDay question from the RPG Brigade of Facebook. For 2019, this is the 7th day. The 7th topic is familiar. I was going to grab my Black Cat Magic and bring her in front and make her have an appearance as my personal familiar, but she's not being cooperative today, and I can't find her in her hiding spot. So instead I thought I would talk about another aspect of familiar, the dangers of familiarity and kind of forming a shell around yourself. It's possible to get so familiar and comfortable with a role-playing game that you have a hard time imagining playing something else. I know a lot of people who will brag about how long their campaigns have gone on for. There is a campaign here in this town where I live where the same group has been playing a game for 16 years now. 16 years! That's a long time. And they'll brag and they'll boast about how they've done all of this, and they've had their characters for so long, and they're on like their 6th generation of characters, and they're all great heroes and have changed their world, and which is really cool. Definitely awesome that you've got, number one, a group that can stick together for long enough to do that, and number two, that you've been able to do that for that long with just that one game and never gotten tired of it to look outside of your borders and see if there's something else. Now, I am fast friends with the owner of the local gaming store. He appreciates my enthusiasm for the hobby. I've given him a lot of my money over the years. So, he's a great guy. I've worked for him. I've worked with him. And quite honestly, he makes sure that I don't just have one game, that I've been exposed to a huge amount. And having a nice game store in your hometown is a huge bonus to being able to look outside the boundaries of what you're used to and what you're familiar with. However, that being said, it doesn't really hurt to specialize in a couple of games. You're going to have those games that you've played and can instinctively go back, even if you haven't played it for a few years, and slip right back into old habits, and with just a little bit of remedial reading, catch up on all of the rules and different things that you're familiar with. And I thought I would share the ones that I'm familiar with enough that I consider them to be my core, as far as if I'm asked to play a particular game, I don't need the book. There's a couple. First of all, almost any iteration of Dungeons & Dragons. I've played all of them. And quite honestly, 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, and now 5th edition, I'm just about there. I can pretty much play, if you give me a character, I can pretty much play it without having to look into the book for, how to do this or how to do that. I've got those rules pretty solidly. Basic Dungeons & Dragons, I could probably do just fine. It'd take me a little remedial because it's been a long time. But I'm pretty familiar with the concept, so I'm not too worried. 0th edition D&D, well, you have to look on matrices and tables a bit, but that's not all that difficult, and would provide an interesting challenge. 4th edition, I don't think that I've run it enough to say for sure that there's so many different options. You need the books at some point to be able to reference all the different things that you can do. But as far as the core concepts and conceits of the game, yeah, I can run and play that without much difficulty. I am confident enough to say that if I was just suddenly pressed to service, I could grab the pertinent books and run a game without any preparation, straight out of my head, no problem, for any reasonable size group. The World of Darkness, original World of Darkness games, like Werewolf, The Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, those are systems that I'm intimately familiar with. Primarily, again, Vampire and Werewolf. I've flirted with Wraith and Mage I have looked into Changeling, although I've never played or run it, but the concepts aren't that drastically different. Mummy is a little out there, a bit out there. I could probably take a poke at that. I'm not too interested. Wraith is trippy, but again, some core concepts that aren't too hard. And yes, at a moment's notice, I could instantly whip up a Chronicle for definitely Vampire or Werewolf. The others might take a little bit of work, but not much. GURPS. I do love the GURPS system. It's a fantastic role-play game system. It's elegantly simple at its concept, and it's just so many options that it oftentimes intimidates people with all the different things that you can do. It is definitely not a game where you just want to hand the players the book and say, go to town. You want to have some control over what your players can make or build, otherwise you'll end up with a space marine, a superhero, and a goblin, or maybe a talking toaster. That's just how the game can go, and you want to have some control over the characters as they're created to keep them in the correct milieu and everything. So game masters have to do a little bit more work for that, but I appreciate that they came out with a truly universal game that you could do practically anything with. I've actually patterned the concepts of my own role-playing game, Dice File, to try to be as flexible as GURPS. And I think I've succeeded too. And since I created the game, I could probably run that with as much familiarity. Other games that I can claim that level of familiarity with would be Shadowrun, primarily the first edition, which is what I ran most of my gaming with. I now have the 5th edition. Actually, I have 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. Never got 3rd. 5th looks fantastic, and I can't wait to run that at some point in the fairly near future. So many things that just make sense, and systems that are easy to use. You still get to sling a lot of dice, but solid background for the game. But I could run 1st edition, no problem. Again, only glancing occasionally here and there at different rulings out of the books. Hardly anything at all. I consider that to be fairly familiar. Star Wars D6, same thing. The system is very simple. I can easily whip up a challenging encounter without having to make any references. And those would be what I would really consider to be my core. Others that I would probably be familiar enough would be the Warhammer 40,000 series from Fantasy Flight Games. I'm pretty solid with those. I could do Numenera. I've run it before. It's not my favorite game system though. And there's a variety of them, especially different editions of some of the games that I'm already familiar with. So my library isn't vast, but it's got games that I'm familiar with and comfortable enough with that should I get pressed into service to be a game master, and I do enjoy it, so I could pretty much run a lot of games without a lot of preparation time. And if I have the preparation time, I'm pretty confident I can run something amazing for you. So that's my familiarity. I'm sure you have those things that you're familiar with, and if you're looking to get familiar with gaming or something new in gaming, I recommend checking out my channel, Lair of OmnusI. I talk about a lot of different things in gaming, including game design, having fun with the game, playing around with different systems. I show elements of my own game, Dice File, so lots to see, lots to do. If you like, check it out, YouTube, Lair of OmnusI. But until then, if you want to keep watching me, subscription on there will do. Otherwise, just keep checking back. I'll keep posting all through the month of August. So until next time you see me, I will be here once more the next time I crawl in front of the internet to make one of these videos. Thank you, and farewell.